Christian Parenting.
Trevor, welcome
Hi.
to the Christian Parenting Podcast.
Hi, Stephanie. Great to be here.
You guys, this is fun because you get to meet my husband today. My husband, Trevor.
Hi,
Say
everybody.
hi, Trev.
Nice to meet you.
So Trevor and I have been married 15 years, and we have our little family of 3 kids, and we are just like you guys trying to do our very best in parenting and raising our kids and keeping our family somewhat organized and a little less chaotic. And we're kind of talking about that today. We're going to share a little bit into our story and what the last few years of our life have been like and what we're doing as a family to feel like we have a little bit more put together. You laugh. In case anyone thinks that we're really put together, perfectly imperfect, the motto of Christian parenting is perfect for us because we are not perfect in any way, shape, or form. But okay, Trevor, tell everyone about us. Tell them about you. Tell us about, I would love to hear give us the background of our relationship over the last 15 years, but like in an abbreviated form.
Okay, sure. So I'm Trevor. Nice to meet you all. And I have the pleasure of joining you today with Stephanie Thurling, the Steph Thurling, who I fell madly in love with about 17 years ago when I first saw her. And we actually met at school. We both went to Pepperdine in California. And I asked her out a couple times before she finally acquiesced. And I'm still
That's
trying
true.
to pinch myself that she said yes multiple times, including when I proposed. But we have been very happily married since 2009. So we're coming up on our 16th year, actually, as being married. And it's been a heck of a ride. And we started in California. Steph was going to Fuller there. And I was just starting my first job. And we became young parents at the time when we moved to Minnesota shortly thereafter. So we moved to Minnesota in 2010. And then we had Calvin in 2012. He's our oldest. He's 12. He'll turn 13 in the spring. And then Griffin a couple of years after that. He's our 10-year-old. And then Harriet came in and turned our lives upside down in the most beautiful way in 2016 when she came in. And she's always upside down because she's a dancer. And so that's a lot of fun. And we just have the most incredible family of just motion-filled, joy-filled kids that God decided for some reason to bless us with. And we get the joy of kind of coming alongside them and watching them grow and become amazing little people and really examples for us in a lot of ways of what it means to be a really good Christ follower and human. And I'm just really lucky to be around these people every day and just so blessed to be here and just really trying hard not to mess them up. I don't know how good I'm doing, but I love working with Steph to just build our little family together and raise these people up. And it's been a fun ride. How did I do?
You did good. Okay, but to be fair, you did ask me out a few times before I finally said yes. But the time that I said yes, I was your third choice date.
I'm going to gloss over that.
Trevor and I were very good friends, and he needed a date to his fraternity formal, and I was his third choice. And I wasn't offended because we were friends. I was like, oh, no one else can go, so I'll go with him. That'll be fun. And then the rest is history, I suppose.
She didn't know it was a date.
I didn't know it was a date. I thought we were friends because I was your third choice.
Well, you're my first choice forever now. How's that?
Oh, good. That works. That's good. We'll take it. Okay, so you have to do what all my other guests do, and you have to describe our family in a word or a phrase.
A word or a phrase is, I would say, constant motion and energy and volume. We're not a quiet family. We've got some noise going on with us. We've got 2 boys, and they're 12 and 10, and they come with all the rowdy, rambunctious stuff you'd expect from 12 and 10-year-old boys. And then Harriet, who's our 8-year-old, is just always moving. She's a dancer and is full of this just bubbling, exuberant energy, and it all spills out of her in the most incredible ways. And so we've got lots of noise and motion, and some of it's upside down, sideways, backwards, and it's a lot of fun. So there can be somebody watching TV upside down on the couch. There could be somebody singing a song randomly in one room. We've got a lot of things going on at once, but it's fun to be around.
Yeah. And I'm kind of a quiet person, though.
Yeah.
So they get their noise level from you. They do speak quietly. It's just that there's a lot of speaking at the same time.
Yeah, I don't speak quietly.
Well, that's true. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our family and the big game changer that we have started implementing, which was family meetings. Christian Parenting, we are releasing our digital family meeting guide, and It's basically something I wrote because family meetings have been a game changer for us. So when you sign up for this family meeting guide, you're going to receive a year's worth of weekly planning sheets for your family so that you guys can have your own family meetings, really connect with each other, focus on the Lord, and just get on the same page for the week ahead. It's just been huge for us. Even with the best intentions, it's been hard to start. So we wanted to create a product that would make it easier for you guys because we had a rocky start to getting consistent with these meetings and making them where we wanted to be. So we just wanted to help you make it easier. So let's talk a little bit about family meetings, Trev, why we started doing them, how they've helped our family. We haven't actually talked about this prior to recording because I really just wanted to hear your perspective. So let's start with you first, and then I'll share my perspective too. But like maybe start with the catalyst to having family meetings for us.
Sure. So, we mentioned we have 3 kids and we became young parents. We were pretty young when we had Calvin back in 2012. And when you're first parents, it's pretty, easy from a schedule perspective because your kids don't have a lot of activities going on. They kind of do what you do. And then all of a sudden we woke up one day and we had 3 kids in activities. And we had 3 kids in school, and we had 3 kids that needed lunch planning, and we had 3 kids doing after school activities and in-school activities and weekend activities. And we realized we were running all over the place during the week and not necessarily having dinner together at the same time. And we were kind of upside down. And I found that I didn't know what anybody was doing because I was working full time and Steph was also working, but I was always asking questions about like, where were people going to be? And it wasn't necessarily the best format for trying to figure out where everybody was going to be at. We were feeling sometimes like one of our kids was getting forgotten as we were chasing around 2 of the other ones. And we were just feeling a little bit out of sorts as a family. I think, I grew up where we didn't have as many activities as kids when I was a kid. And so we got together at the family table every night for dinner and we talked about what was going on in our lives, what was going well, what wasn't, what was coming up for the week, all of that kind of get on the same page. That happened at the dinner table every day. And we used to do that when our kids were little. We'd talk about what was the best part of your day, what was the worst part of your day, how did you see God today? They loved that aspect of getting around the dinner table. But we realized that was falling apart as we got into all of these activities. And so, we had some frustrating moments where I wasn't on the same page as Steph. We missed the kids' activities sometimes. We just randomly forgot that somebody had karate practice one day and it was 30 minutes after it started. And we just really needed some way to get on the same page and get organized. We tried smart calendars, we tried planners, and those were all helpful tools, but they really weren't connecting with our kids in a meaningful way. And so we started the idea of having a family meeting once a week to try and get everybody on the same page before the week started so we would know what was coming and we'd be able to plan for it, including things like meal planning, including things like making sure anybody knew who was going to be out of town on the business trip. And it didn't really go super well. We would go for it for maybe a week or two and then fall apart and then come back into it maybe a few months later in a different format. But we weren't really able to be super consistent at it. And the family meeting itself was becoming something that we weren't looking forward to because it felt like an obligation. And it felt like this big thing that the kids had to be pulled away from whatever fun they were having to sit and listen to their parents drone on about boring stuff. And it wasn't really fun. And so this last fall, we tried it again. Well, why we tried it again, Stephanie challenged me. She said, hey, we need to do this family meeting thing again. We got to pull it together because this isn't working and we need to participate. And so we started up the family meeting again. And we went with a pretty consistent format this time around of getting together on Sundays and going through a format it started with scripture and prayer to begin with, like a mini devotional, followed by what was going on during the week. So we made sure we go through everybody's schedules, what's happening during the week, any big events that are coming up. We talk about what kind of things the kids might want to pray for in the world, in their lives, their friends' lives, in their own lives, big things that are coming, things they need help with. Steph and I got a chance to share the same thing about ourselves. And then before we conclude the family meeting, we have an opportunity for some fun, which is we let each of our kids pick for the week, either a snack, a drink, or a dessert. Not for every day, but just to have at some point during the week. And so it lets our kids have some input on what they're doing. Oh, also, we let them talk about what meals they might want to have, for instance, during the week. So our kids get to participate in some of the meal planning we do for the week. They get to eat some of their favorite things. They get to pick something fun that they like, that they get to share with their siblings. And we get something to look forward to every week. And the kids responded really well to it right away. They responded well. To be fair, they probably responded better to the snack, drink, and dessert aspect of it than anything
100%.
else.
That's what they're
But
there
it's
for.
kept them engaged, right? We're now in January and we still have family meetings. And by the way, if we forget what order snack, drink, and dessert is in, we can just ask the kids because they never forget.
No, they never forget.
But it has been a game changer. It helps us to connect, helps us to stay on the same page. It's helped us avoid some of the guilt at not having constant daily family dinners together as we're running around activities. And it's just been really beneficial for our family. It really has been a game changer. And the best part is that our kids know what each other are doing. Whereas before they were a little bit more insular, focused on what they were up to. Now they know what their siblings are doing. And I think that's been the biggest game.
Yeah. So I'll just add that part of what really made us realize that we needed something to enhance our communication as a family was me going back to work full time. So I was home with our kids exclusively for 10 years. I was working part-time at a church. And then when Calvin was born, when he was 1, I stepped back and have stayed home. And so I always carried the mental load of being the mom, of having the family calendar down, knowing what was going on, all of the things that moms do. That was 100% on me because I wasn't working outside the home at all. So when I started working, honestly, we had a really rocky year and a half of me going back to work because I stepped into working a 40-hour-a-week job and continued to do the same amount of work at home, carrying that mental load, doing all the things that I was doing. And we tried so many different ways to split up tasks and split up different things. And nothing worked. We just were floundering for a really long time. And I think that being able to sit down intentionally and talk about what has been going on, what we have to prepare for so that and I don't have to remember everything on my own, that has just given me so much more relief. And it has taken off so much of my stress of being a working mom. So I think that was really kind of the game changer for us because we weren't used to having 2 full-time working parents, at all.
No. Well, and I think the other thing is that you're a way better planner than I am. I don't like planning. I like to figure out what we're going to eat for dinner today, go to the store, get the stuff, come home and make dinner, right? And that's just, the reality is we don't have that kind of space in our life to do that every day. And so, if I can use the family meeting as a way to help myself be organized, every family is probably a little bit like this, right? One spouse is probably better organizing. One spouse might be a little bit less apt to do that. It really helps that person that's maybe not necessarily quite as organized participate in the organization. So it doesn't feel like all of the burden of the planning is going on one person. And really resetting that scale of responsibility has been a big game changer for us. So now I can participate in it. It's easier for me because I have a template. I can think about what's happening. I can help out a lot more because I can see what's in front of me as opposed to asking what needs to be done. It's really been helpful that way. And I think that was one of the big shifts that we had to get used to was that, I really honestly needed to do a better job at doing something I'm not prone to doing, which is being super organized. And that really helped me a lot. I don't have to be perfect, but at least it gives me some margin to work within.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you said earlier too, about how our meetings have helped our kids to know what's going on in each other's lives. Because I think that's been really awesome. I think every family has kind of one kid that is more, and it's usually the middle, and I'm a middle, so I have a soft spot for middle children. But so often, especially those little middles or just whoever it is, there's usually a kid who just feels like their voice isn't as heard, or maybe it's just the quieter one of the family. But I feel like giving our kids each time to speak during the week has given them all ownership of what they're doing and a voice in the family that maybe they felt like they didn't have before. I think that's really empowering because that's where they're learning too, to have a voice is in the family. And so we're giving space to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, something as simple as them being able to pick a dinner for the family that week is a really big deal. They get to pick something that they like, and the others might not necessarily like it. Griffin picks ravioli every week, right? He loves ravioli. Calvin doesn't love ravioli. So we have something maybe he'll eat on the side, maybe leftovers in the fridge or whatever, but Griffin gets his meal. Right? Harriet loves sloppy joes. The boys don't love sloppy joes. She picks sloppy joes all the time. And for some reason, that girl loves eating meat on wet bread. She gets to pick that, and she gets to feel like she has some control, and her brothers don't get to say no. And there's a little bit of that self-advocacy that's good, but they also have to roll with it. And that's what dinner is that night. And they kind of have to be okay with whatever their siblings want to. So it's giving our kids a chance to have some agency. And at the same time, it's giving them a chance to step back and let their siblings step forward and have their moment too. Even with something as benign as picking a dinner, it really makes a difference.
Yeah. So, okay, we've had to start family meetings, stop family meetings, start again, we're finally in a rhythm. What would your advice be to people who want to have family meetings regularly? Like, what should they focus on first?
So I think there's two aspects of the family meeting that should really be focused on first. One is thinking about a way to make it engaging for your kids, thinking about a way that makes them want to come to the family meeting. And a lot of times, that doesn't have to be something as simple as, this doesn't have to be a snack, a drink, or dessert. Your family can pick whatever you want to have fun with, but something your kids like to do that can be an aspect of that family meeting. Maybe it's a quick game, maybe it's a song, maybe it's something you guys do together that your kids look forward to. I think that's really important because that anchors it and they want to come back to it. And along the same lines, I think it's really important to connect together in a faith-based setting and have some sort of a devotional opportunity during that family meeting. And it can be as simple as reviewing part of the Bible verse you just talked about in church that Sunday. It could be something you pull from a daily devotional that you have by your bedside. It could even go as far as your kids picking a devotional topic for the next week and them being the one that goes ahead and leads it. But I think, like with any devotional, it's important to plan on it. You can't just come in and wing it. It's important to sort of read it, have some opinions on what you're going to talk about, and be able to lead your family through that devotional, whoever's leading it that week. And that really helps anchor the family meeting. Our family meetings go a lot better when we do a way better job at the beginning, praying for the meeting, starting with the devotional, and then getting to business, because it really helps set the stage and things don't go as haywire during. People are nicer to each other, people are more attentive, and it really kind of helps get the room ready to have a productive family meeting. And it doesn't have to last forever. That's the other thing. You asked me for two things. I'm going to say three. The other is keep it short. If it drags on forever, kids might not love it. But the shorter you can keep it, the better it is, and something they feel like isn't going to distract them overly from their day. They can get it done. They can have some voice, and they can know what's happening for the week.
Yeah. And for us too, I feel like when we were struggling with these meetings and not doing them well, we were coming to them tired and like it was a burden that we had to do. And our attitudes were not great about these meetings. We weren't coming prepared. We weren't coming like, this would be fun. We're all going to sit together and focus on the Lord and get on the same page and all, sit down together. It was more like, okay, family meeting, let's go. And they didn't go up at all.
No, I'd feel guilty sometimes I didn't do it. You'd hold me accountable for it, and then I'd feel bad. It just wasn't good. But I think we've done a lot better job since we kind of got that consistent format in the fall. And it's been really helpful.
Yeah. Well, and that's also why in the guide, we are trying to make it easy for you guys. Like we have I call it like a 1-minute devotional at the beginning because it's literally just a Bible verse that you read and then one question about it. And so you can focus on God, but it doesn't have to be this big thing and you don't have to do a ton of prep work. We did it all for you because everyone just needs a little bit of help sometimes, including us. So really,
Right.
we wrote this for ourselves and we're just sharing it with you. Okay. Let's talk about the part of the family meeting that we've already talked about a little bit, the most fun, but also has the highest potential for fighting, which is snack, drink, and dessert. We talked about getting kids involved, but like our family meetings are not perfect. Like we do have fights. Like the kids disagree. People have bad attitudes. It's not perfect every week. And sometimes we just don't do them. Sometimes we're busy. It was just the holidays. We've been traveling. We haven't done a lot of family meetings. And now we did yesterday to get ready for the week, to get ahead. And it felt really good to be like, okay, we're going back to school. Here's what we need to know, because we were kind of floundering for a while with the busyness of the holidays, not knowing what was going on. Who has a choir concert? Who has their outfit? Who needs what? And people are tired. So let's talk about how things don't go well sometimes and how to manage that.
Yeah. So number one, focusing on the snack, drink, dessert aspect of the family meeting. Things don't go well if you don't actually follow through on the snack, drink, dessert because your
Oh my
kids
gosh, that's so
remember.
true. I didn't even think about that. Oh yeah, they will remember. If you don't order, we Instacart all our groceries. If you do not get their snack, they will tell you and they will be deeply offended.
Yeah. So following the family meeting, put that Instacart order on and put it on the shopping list so you can actually deliver that snack, drink, or dessert, and that helps build that trust. But I mean, I remember the blue. I'll just call it the blue Takis disaster of like October, November.
I
One of
don't
our
remember
kids
this at
picked
all.
blue Takis, which are these like vinegar, spicy tube chip
Disgusting
things.
things that are blue.
Yeah, they're brutal. But one of our kids loves them, and the others do not like them, or at least one of the others doesn't like them. And so they were really frustrated that they weren't going to like the snack that week. And it was just a screaming match, and it wasn't pretty. And the family meeting kind of devolved to a little bit of madness. But I think, looking back on it, that like, was that really a disaster? Or, like Calvin wanted blue Takis and Harriet really didn't. And she expressed that she didn't like him. And he was like, well, I want him anyways. That's what I want for my snack. And you can have some of it or not, but I'm not ordering my snack for you. I'm ordering it for me and I'm inviting you to share it. That was a little bit rough, but it worked okay. The one that was tough was I think we had for dessert one time, somebody picked like Dairy Queen Blizzards. And we weren't able to deliver on that, or we tried to deliver on it, and we went and we got Dairy Queen Blizzards one day. It was like Tuesday, and then there was a dust up on Wednesday because we didn't go get Dairy Queen Blizzards. And so we had to clarify, like, we didn't mean you were getting Dairy Queen Blizzards every night this week. We meant you get them once. Or they would order things like, Dr. Pepper, and you buy Dr. Pepper, from the store, and it comes in a 12 or 24 pack, and they were thinking they were going to get one every night after dinner. And we had to have caffeine and sugar conversations and that kind of stuff. So, those expectations, kids have different expectations of what it means for snack, drink, dessert than you might have. And so I think that's been one of the things we've had to navigate. It was a little bit of a bumpy part at the beginning, but we kind of worked through it. And I think that's some of the potential for it falling apart a little bit. Definitely forgetting to order it is the biggest issue.
It really is. Do not forget to order it. I'm really bad. Now I just pull out my phone and put it in my Instacart, like
Yeah.
literally as we're speaking. But
Or,
I do think
like
our kids have learned a
coffee.
lot of conflict resolution from this too. Like having to, I don't like that snack. Well, it's not really about you right now, So I think that's been really good. Having to communicate
Yeah.
and having us
Yeah.
all together helping guide those conversations has been very helpful for our kids.
It has been. Well, because life doesn't always go the way you want, right? Sometimes you have to deal with it. And I think that's just part of it. Sometimes you have to eat blue Takis if you want a snack that day.
I mean, do you though? Do you? You can just not have a snack.
Yeah. Just skip it.
Okay, so looking forward to the year ahead, Trev, what is a goal that you have for our family?
I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I would love, especially in the context of a family meeting, I would like our kids to feel empowered to step into some faith leadership in our home. I would love it if our kids got to a point where they knew they were going to lead the devotional for next week's meeting. I would love if one aspect of our family meeting could be like, okay, Calvin, you're on for the devotional next week. And then one of us follows up with them on like Wednesday, Thursday, and checks in, maybe helps him pick a verse. He gets to lead the devotional that week and have some ownership of it. I think that would be a really exciting way for us to move this family meeting into the next phase, which has so far been parent led. I would love it if this became something that all of our kids feel like they can run, because if they do it that way, they can take this and impart it to their own families down the line. And it can be something that's really positive that continues past just our family. So that's what I would say is a goal for me, is that I would love to, by this time next year, when we do our follow-up podcast, to talk about how great our kids are doing at leading these family meetings, because I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Well, and that also helps them, not even with their own future families, because that is, at least for our kids, a while away. But like we think about Calvin's 12, he's going to be in high school in a year and a half, and then he's going to go on to college or whatever he chooses to do after that. So being able to just plan for himself for the week and just take inventory of what he's doing is just part of adulthood that it takes a little time and practice to get used to. But I think that's a executive functioning skill that's really important that you can start training your kids in at a young age just by doing meetings together and modeling. So I love the
Yeah.
idea of having them take more ownership, but because we haven't really done that yet. But it's a great opportunity for leadership too, leadership within your own family.
And our kids are great little theologians. They sometimes have the best answers to those devotional questions anyway. So I think they're probably better at it than we give them credit for. We just haven't empowered them to do it yet.
Well, that's usually how it is with kids in faith, right? Like they have the Holy Spirit in them too. We just have to give them the space to experiment and to talk about their faith and ask the questions and have the good conversation. So, okay. Do you have anything else you want to say about family meetings or our own family or experience before my last question? And if you don't know my last question, we have a problem, Trev.
Oh, no. I think I'm more grateful for the family meeting than I thought it would be. It felt like it was going to be an obligation. It felt like something that I had to do, that I had to figure out, and something I wasn't initially looking forward to. And now it's one of the things I look forward to in the weekend. And when we have a week that goes well, it's almost always connected with a family meeting that went well to start the week off. And I don't think it was the family meeting that makes the week go well, but it's the chance to all of us get together and spend quality time intentionally getting on the same page, hearing each other, giving people space to speak, giving people space to offer up what's on their minds or their hearts for prayer request or thought. And it makes everybody feel like they're participating in the family as opposed to being drug along with the chaos. And I think that is the biggest blessing that we've had. And I'm really grateful for the experience because it's really helped me recognize how cool our kids are and watching them just I don't know. I'm more grateful for it than I thought it would be. I'm pleasantly surprised with how this has impacted our family.
Yeah. And I think that you're right that it's not necessarily just like a family meeting. You have to do it this way to experience this. It's just intentional connection with your kids. This is just a really helpful thing that we have found and we wanted to share with you. But just, I think meeting weekly has reminded our kids every single Sunday, like you are our priority, like you are what matters most. And so we're going to make sure that we all connect so that we can serve you well as parents, that we can love you well, and that we can meet your needs well. Because it is easy to feel like we're just dragging them along for the ride. Like you go to school, you go to your activities, we're all feeding. And like by the end of the day, you're like, whoa, did I even look at anyone? Did we have any meaningful conversations? So just reminding them weekly, you are our priority and we want to give you our very best. So we're going to take time to do that. It's just been really important for us, especially as two working people. Like it's just, we're busy. So it's good.
Yeah, it's really good. And one more thing, I guess, on the meeting is that I was really moved earlier this year when we have some friends that volunteer at our kids' school. And one of them came up to me and she said, "Hey, I want to let you know that Harriet prayed for your big meeting this week. How did it go?" And that was something that I had brought up in our family meeting about something that I was concerned about coming into the week. I had a big meeting at work and I was really nervous about it. And so I revealed that to our kids and we prayed about it together. And Harriet took that to her classroom at school. She goes to a Christian school, our kids do. And she prayed for that. She lifted that up for prayer for her class. And her little class of third graders prayed for my business meeting, and that carried through. And so I was really moved by it because it wasn't just about our kids talking about what they needed. It was also us being vulnerable and sharing with them what was going on in our lives. And I think so often kids feel like they're powerless or there's a power imbalance between them and their parents. And Stephanie and I have really focused on trying to talk about what's going well in our own professional and personal lives and what's not, and what we could use prayer and help with. And it's helped our kids feel like they're participating in our lives as well. And I think that was really a shock to me in a positive way that was carrying through in that way. So I would encourage all parents that are listening to this, that are considering family meetings, to lead by example. And if you want your kids to pray about things that they're looking for or share, you can be the one that starts it. You can be honest and authentic about sharing what is troubling you, what is giving you hope, and really lead the example there, and your kids will follow it. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. To wrap us up, Trev, there's my final question. What is one thing that you want every parent to know when they're leaving this podcast?
I want every parent to know when they're leaving this podcast that God looks at you the way that you look at your kids, the way that you see your kids bounce down the stairs on Christmas morning with that light in their eyes and all of the joys and potential you see for them in the world. God sees that for you too as parents. And I think sometimes we forget that we're enough and that God is so proud of who we are. And he gave us these kids because he knows we can handle it. He's so proud of you. He loves you. He knows that you're the people for your kids. And I think parents need to know that because it gets busy and heavy sometimes. And I think a lot of times we just need to know that God thinks you're a rock star. He made you, and your kids are too.
So we are not only like a loud moving family, we're also a very high emotion family. I love that about you, Trevor. I love that you can just be tender and vulnerable, sharing with parents and just sharing your heart. So thank you for being here and for talking about our family and some of the successes that have stemmed from our failures. I think it's just going to be really helpful for people. Thank you for joining me. I always like being with you, but I'm really glad that you got to be in doing part of my job and enter into my world for a little bit. I'm sure you'll be back again.
I hope I get invited. We'll have to see what the reviews are like.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. Well, you guys, if you want to get the family meeting guide, you can go to the Christian Parenting website. I'll link it in show notes too. We are really excited about it. We hope that it's a blessing to your family the way that it's been a blessing to our family. And we're just really grateful that we get to be part of your lives. So thank you so much for listening and for having Trevor and getting to know our family a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
Christian Parenting.